Hi everyone. About 30, maximum 40 minutes away from Tbilisi starts the region. Well, it's kind of the small region. It's called Staguramo. It's basically named after a mountain range, Staguramo Range. And it's that area where we had our tour of Ilya Chakchavadze, the national poet of Georgia, 19th and early 20th century. It's also the area where we had the lavender farm visit. That's the same day that I also discovered the beautiful garden of Mamulashvili family. But we should be going. And the day started with one of the absolute highlights of Saguramo area. That is the valley of the river Aragvi. And look at this scenery. We started early in the morning and we first went up in the mountains to see the Zedazani Monastery and the Sagurama Mountains from the bird's eye view. Look at that. And then over there, you can see there is actually the town of Mtsheta, which I will show you very soon. So don't worry, you're going to see everything. You're also going to see the ways, well, the way that these towns, the name of the towns are spelled. That's Ilya Chakchavadze, that's Georgia's national poet and one of the liberation symbols of Georgia. That's his house, the museum that we visited about a few weeks ago. That recording is available for my sponsors and also on demand. So that house is beautiful, 19th century family nook. And this is the Zedazani monastery that we visited in the morning. It's a small area there. The area that is available for a visit is very small. Just imagine you are within the ancient fortress, medieval fortress. The first monastery is believed to have been established in the 5th century. And given the fact that Georgia became, well, converted to Christianity as a nation in the 4th century, in, well, let's say first half of the 4th century, that's a very old church and monastery. And it is believed that the Zedazeni monastery was established on a site where before this, a pagan sanctuary or a pagan altar had been. I like those two sheep there, just chilling in the shade, and I just like it's so serene. So and there are so many mountains around. I sometimes I would ask, a driver because we hired a car with the driver, what is the name of this mountain? What is the name of that mountain? And he just would burst out laughing because they are all called Sagurama. They don't really have the names. So Sagurama is a village that belongs to the, let's say, the municipality of Mteka. Very soon you will see the way this town, the name of the town is spelled. And obviously the church doesn't look the same way it looked in the 5th century or maybe 6th century. It's the dates differ just a little bit. And this was such a beautiful way to start the day, seeing everything, the beautiful valley, seeing the Aragvi River as well. And you know that in Tbilisi, we have another river flowing, but this is the place where two rivers come together, Aragvi and the Kura. Well, you saw Aragvi already in the photo. You're going to see also the another one. So what is this region famous for? Actually, politically, this is, and this fortress as well, and the monastery served as one of the fortifications, one of the watch towers, well, just to protect the ancient capital of Mtsheta, because Tbilisi became the capital only as early as the 15th century. Just that. And Mtsheta being the ancient capital way before the Common Era, it was pagan, obviously, from the start, it was pagan. So these places these places are connected with the arrival of Christianity, since this area was the main capital, was here used to be the main capital of Georgia. So this is where the most important political and social and economic events happened. And of course, this is where some of the most popular, some of the most important and highly venerated churches and other religious facilities were established, monasteries. And so Jwari Monastery is one of them. It is overlooking the beautiful valley and overlooking the town of Mteta. So we are approaching Mteta. This is exactly the place of junction of the two rivers, Aragvi and the Kura. And Aragvi is from the right and the Kura is from the left. And the Kura, Omtkvari, there are two names. The Kura is the name coming from the Turkic language. And, that's the photo from the internet. Usually on a good day when the waters are more or less relaxed, chill, and quiet, you can see the difference in the colors of the water. So Aragvi water usually is a lot bluer, and the Kura River, if you remember Tbilisi and the river that I showed you, and in Tbilisi, well, the Kura River has very kind of a dirty sediment. So it's naturally just kind of brown color, just that. Mtskheta. So that's the town that we could see from the Jwari Monastery. I did the tour of the Jwari Monastery and Mtskheta about a year ago. It was a pre-recorded tour. If you are interested more in the architecture and history and the importance of these religious sites, that's the tour I would highly recommend you to watch. And if you don't know where to find the link, just contact me. So, but Mtskheta lost its political importance almost immediately when Tbilisi was established 15 centuries ago. However, it remained the spiritual center because of the Svetoslav Cathedral that is believed to be standing on the spot where how shall I put it very quickly, on the spot where some of the, well, let's put it very simple. And let me simplify that because we are not focusing on this tour. So I'll just say that there was a girl, the Sidonia. She actually was a Jewish girl, and she had her brother he was a merchant, and he would come and go to the Holy Land. And one day he brought um, a piece of garment that was believed to have been worn by Jesus. And he came with the news that that man called Jesus was killed. And upon hearing the news, Sidonia just died on the spot, holding this piece of Jesus's garment in her hand. And her body just wouldn't let go of it. And this is how Sidonia was buried. And on that spot, the church is believed to have been built. And on that spot, a tree also grew. Well, that's the story. So this church has, well, everything you need to know about Georgia, its spirituality, the Georgian Orthodox Christianity, the Georgian way. That's what you need to see. That's the monastery. That's the church. That's the territory. It also looks like a fortress because the entire town had to be protected and had originally had those walls. Obviously, it doesn't have its fortress walls anymore. And it's now a very touristy place, unfortunately. However, there are so many places that people just overlook. They just don't see it because everyone is taken to the Jwari Monastery, and like 10 minutes away from the Jwari is Mtskheta and the Svetoslav Cathedral. But there is so much more than just these two churches. Don't get me wrong, the churches are great, but the town itself looks a little bit, at certain points of the town, which is small, it looks a little bit like Switzerland. Honestly, the houses, they look very, I don't know. I think they just look very similar to the small, cottages in the mountains somewhere in Switzerland or the Alps. And next to the mountains and with the sun and the valleys, it does. Well, the Jwari Monastery, you could see just exactly opposite the cathedral. it has this unique vibe. But because of the tourists, because of all these stores and wine, ice cream, and the churchelas and all these traditional, souvenirs, pretty much mass market, but not everywhere, not everything. But nevertheless, you kind of really miss so much more of the city. And now that I have discovered this gem of Nteda, the garden that I'm going to take you to, I know that I need to go back. I need to revisit the place and also just walk down the streets of this small town and try to avoid the churches because this is the touristy area. Unfortunately, it's really a mass tourism place. It's good and it's not good. But a minute away from the church, so it's the church, stands this house, and stands the house of Mikhail Mamulashvili. Mikhail Mamulashvili, I bet you've never heard this name. Well, maybe just 2 weeks ago when I took you to his garden, which was absolutely unplanned, just improvised visit. Mikhail Mamulashvili, I had no idea about him up until that day that I visited his garden. I simply was looking up for something, that I haven't seen in Nteda. I was desperate trying to find something other than the two churches. I wanted something else, some architecture, maybe some personalities, and then this came into my feed. Well, I had to, scroll down to see that. So Mikhail Mamulashvili came from actually a peasant family, and he, from the age of 5, as I was told in the museum, because this is the house that belongs to Mamulashvili even nowadays, to his descendants. So from very early years, he realized he had this, love of tinkering, in the gardens, growing things, taking care of plants, and experimenting and designing things. He just had this flair, and actually modern flair. And he became Georgia's first landscape artist. Just like that. I have found a newscast on YouTube. It's in Georgian. Well, this place is not really known to anyone but Georgians. Maybe they just keeping it a secret and I've discovered something that I wasn't supposed to. Let's see if they're coming after me. I don't know. But I think everyone should know this place. And I think, people should be taken there, not just Georgians. So this is there from the Soviet times. Mikhail Mamulashvili lived for almost 100 years. He was born in 1870s and he died in 1860s. He's in his garden, and this is the same garden where we are now. I am going to turn the sound on. You should be able to hear it. Just let me, let's do the following. I'm just going to relaunch the video because I'm not sure if you actually can, but now you definitely will be. And I'll go back to the spot where, okay, very good. Yeah, so now you'll be able to hear that. You might want to readjust the volume because the volume will depend also on how loud this is on your end. So you might need to turn it down a bit. And I have the subtitles there, and then we're going to continue. And I will comment afterwards.
Sakmea adrev sadamias risebas kelisheni mosazreba sheim kelisheni zarwebi soesim sakmes namando mohume. Memudam amaze fikrov da dardo pro vaisu aver gavaketo vigianata.
ამ სიტყვებით ცხოვრობდა ადამიანი, რომელმაც ასწლოვანი გზა მცენარეებსა და მიწას მიუძღვნა. მებაღე დეკორატორი მიხეილ მამულაშვილისთვის შრომა ღირსების საზომი იყო. სწორედ ამ რწმენით შექმნა ბაღი, რომელიც საუკუნეზე მეტია მისი ცხოვრების ცოცხალ მემკვიდრეობად რჩება.
ეს ყველაფერი ამ ადამიანმა თავისი დიდი შრომით შექმნა. არავისგან დახმარება არ მიუღია არაფერი. თვითონ არაფერი არ ქონდა და არც ტანზე ეტყობოდა, არც აღკარი ქონდა ისეთი 1907 წელს გახსნა მაღაზია თბილისში თამაშების ქარვასლაში იქირავა ფართი. ისეთ რაღა კომპოზიციებს ქმნიდა, რომ აღაფრთოვანა ყველა და ხალხს ეგონა, რომ ამ მაღაზიის მფლობელი მილიონერი იყო. რა იცოდნენ, რომ მეო თბილისში საკუთარი ბინაც არ მქონდა და ბინა ქონდა, ოთახი ქონდა, ნაქირავებდა და იქ ცხოვრობდა.
მიხეილ მამულაშვილი 1873 წელს მცხეთაში, გლეხების ოჯახში დაიბადა. ბავშვობიდან სიღარიბეში იზრდებოდა. 5-6 წლის ასაკიდან კი ყვავილებითა და ქვევით თამაშობდა. ასე დაიწყო მისი განსაკუთრებული ურთიერთობა ბუნებასთან. 1890 წელს თბილისის საბაღოსნო სასწავლებელი დაამთავრა. 3 წლის შემდეგ კი მცხეთაში საკუთარი ბაღის გაშენებას შეუდგა. წლების განმავლობაში ეს ადგილი უნიკალურ სივრცედ იქცა, სადაც ასეულობით სახეობის მცენარე იზრდებოდა. მისი განსაკუთრებული ცოდნისა და სიყვარულის გამო ყვავილების ჯადოქარს და მცხეთელ მინდიას უწოდებდნენ.
So, let me comment on that. So what we have just seen is, an episode from a film about Mamulashvili, definitely made in the Soviet times. And next to the beautiful pink lilies, I think I'll just share the story and comment on what we have just seen. This was an interview with the granddaughter of Mikhail Mamulashvili. It's his granddaughter and great-granddaughter that with their own hands and just with their own money, without any other external funding, they have been restoring this garden and the house where Mikhail Mamulashvili lived. As I said, he was born in a poor peasant family with 5 siblings, and from the very, very early age, he just showed this talent and love of plants, gardening and landscape designing, which he didn't even know that existed as a fashion or as a trend. He just did what he loved. And he started first experimenting in the small garden that the family had, and then it grew into big passion. And he succeeded so much. He also offered services as a gardener and landscape artist to a lot of famous Georgians. And he eventually, in 1907, he was able to open a flower shop in the heart of Tbilisi. He just rented a teeny tiny room. I will show you some photographs later on as we visit the museum. And he opened that store, which became a big landmark to the city, and not just for the visitors, but to the Georgians. So Mikhail Mamulashvili became a legend during his lifetime. The man, a self-made man, a bit of entrepreneur, but mainly just the person who admired nature and knew how each and every flower or plant grows, what it likes and what it doesn't like. In his garden, he managed to grow about 2,000 different species of plants, flowers, and whatnot. And now the family is trying to catch up with the achievements of their famous ancestor, but it's still a long way to go. But the garden is lovely. Many of you may remember the several tours in the Gardenia Shevardnadze, a small private garden not far from, it's in Tbilisi, just in the outskirts of Tbilisi, in the countryside. And these two gardens are very different. There's no need to compare them because they're different in vibe. Gardenia Shevardnadze looks very, cozy, but polished, right? And this place looks a little wilder and thus more whimsical, to me at least. plus with all this abundance of flowers and the museum that we will be visiting today and the story of the man behind it. So just imagine, he didn't study, well, at first he didn't study anything. The family didn't have the funds. The family didn't have the, well, any opportunity to send their children to study. And all the knowledge, all the skills, and the secrets that he learned over the years, it was just on the land and from the land, as if the plants were really talking to him. A lot of his contemporaries would say that he indeed was the plant whisperer. Over there, you see behind the fence, you see the walls of the fortress. These are actually the walls of the Svetoslav Valley Monastery. And you may remember, if you watched my lavender farm tour, then you may remember the car ride we had after the visit to the farm. And then I just thought to myself, well, we absolutely had to take it to the garden. So the great-granddaughter of Mikhail Mamulashvili allowed us to do the live stream, and she allowed me to film everything. And I really want to go back. I really want to come back. And this is a little episode from my live stream. During that stream, I went upstairs, so you could see there is a little venue for events. And this is like a small cafe that should start operating shortly, but it wasn't when we were there, sadly enough. But from there, you just have the most perfect view of Svetoslav Valley Church and the Sagoramo mountain range. I mean, I'm lost for words. There's no sound here. I just screen recorded it, but and this is Mikhail Mamulashvili, almost exactly in the same spot. And the church is there, of course. So eventually, he inherited a small plot of land, from his parents, and started working on it. And he was in charge of the design. He had all those ideas of the arrangement, how to plant flowers, where they would grow, what other species they would be feeling okay, and how they wouldn't be feeling okay. All that he just knew. Somehow, again, he at that point couldn't get any formal education, just that. And then also, I did a little reading. I had to translate an article from Georgian. Luckily, well, God bless Google Translate and AI, because I was able to translate it, and found out that before the Soviet period started, Mikhail Mamulashvili, well, he at that time, so in 1907, he opened his flower shop in the center of Tbilisi, and gradually he became, well, a celebrity, because people started finding out about his garden, and he opened garden to public. So he finally started earning something, and he went to study. He went to Europe. He went to the Netherlands, by the way. He went to Germany. He went to England to study, not to study at university, not to study in any academic facility, but he wanted some practical knowledge, some hands-on experience from the gardeners in the botanical gardens. And he studied tulips as well. I didn't see any tulips, but because it's not the tulip season anymore, so I need to go back to the garden in May and in April to see it for myself. I guess now it's just the lilac season, right? And it looks like I'm gonna need to go back in September for the chrysanthemum season. We'll see. I'm definitely going back, definitely, and might be taking you with me. So after that, he returned, and shortly after that, he had to close his store because the public property, little by little, would be seized by the Bolsheviks, which happened in 1920s. On my previous tour, actually, I mentioned that the nationalization, this is a little bit of more history here, like hardcore history. I did mention that unlike the Soviet Union proper or Russia proper, in Georgia, this nationalization, the expropriation of any property from aristocrats and merchants started a little later here. Well, the Bolsheviks took over the country in 1921, and by 1928, this nationalization actually started. So I would say that, before 1928, Mamulashvili already lost his store and also lost any ownership of his land. But by that time, he had already become the legend, the living legend, and he had so many stories to share. And it's incredible that this man, who only died in the 60s, the previous century, he had so many friends that are absolute legends for Georgia. This is incredible. Well, yeah, first of all, I wanted to share with you this photo of this qvevri, just to remind you. So qvevri is the clay pot. It's the clay vessel in which it looks like amphora, right? But for Georgia, it's exactly the vessel in which wine would be fermented. Qvevri is dependent on the region. In many regions of the country, qvevris would be buried underground with only the top of it showing above the surface. And then there would be a lid, there would be a cover, and this is how it would be stored and fermented for at least half a year. Well, there is a story about the qvevri I'll share with you shortly. And also, almost as you enter the garden, you see the stone. Well, it's only natural that Mikhail Mamulashvili was buried in his own garden. So he's buried in his own garden, just like that. I didn't know that at the beginning, but we were told about it by his great-granddaughter, who gave us a tour of the garden and the museum. And this is the stone under which his body is resting. That's the house. You don't see much of the house because of the gigantic ginkgo biloba tree, and it's just such lush green garden. You don't see much, just the flowers and just a lot of green, and a lot of different varieties of this lilies. I don't even know how many. We even got to see some roses. And the thing is that, well, the rose season is about to end, at least from what I have seen. But there will be more flowers growing like every week, because Mamulashvili knew exactly the seasoning of the flowers, and he planted everything, he arranged everything so that there would always be some flowers in bloom in abundance, just different flowers. So this is the qvevri. This is how big they can get, and it's not even the biggest one. Yes, they can be of different sizes, but this one, I'm not sure if it's there from the times of Mamulashvili, but something's telling me that yes, it is. But as I said, he was a man, a living legend, and that he had a lot of friends, and he had his clientele. So he became a celebrity of the world of, flora, let's say of Georgian flora. And one of his friends was Ilya Chavchavadze. I introduced you to him at the very beginning of the tour, right? So the national poet of Georgia and one of the founders of the Georgian nationalism and the liberation movement. So Ilya Chavchavadze lived in Saguramo. He had a summer residence in Saguramo and visited it a few weeks ago, or like 2 weeks ago, I think, maximum. And he hired Mamulashvili to take care of his garden. And Mamulashvili designed the garden and would be taking care of the garden. And one day, when Chavchavadze, Georgians, um, every Georgian at least knew, but many still know how to make wine. And nearly in every summer residence of every Georgian, there would be a couple of qvevris still hidden underground, and they still will be making wine. Each family will know how to make wine. So one day he came to the garden of Chavchavadze and he saw that he emptied all his qvevris and did the cleaning, and they were just drying on the garden. And he saw the beautiful qvevris, and he just liked also the design of the covers. So the Chavchavadze let him take the covers. And there is the cover. You see this round thing that looks like a pancake. So that's the cover of Ilya Chavchavadze's qvevri. I personally don't see anything too fantastic about it, but it's the qvevri that belonged to Ilya Chavchavadze. That's him. And, every Georgian just considers Ilya their friend or a relative. So they just say Ilya, like a close friend. Just that. The house restored. So imagine all that just being upkept by one family and just their own funds. Yeah, they charge you the entrance of the entrance. The entry is like 10 lari. That's about $3 in just that. And also they have 2 guest rooms, which you can even rent from booking.com. So he died when he was almost 100 years old. This is a little, very, very little biography over here. So the gardener from Tcheta, but he was more than just a gardener from Tcheta. So as I said, 1907, he opened his flower shop, Le Soleil d'Or, the Golden Sun. And quite quickly, that shop with the arrangement, with the vibe, became the famous spot, an absolute landmark. And that's the photograph of the store. I haven't seen this. I didn't see this photo before. I didn't even know about this flower shop. So this is old Tbilisi in the 19th century, and it was a big city. Well, this is the downtown. It's exactly now where the Liberty Square is. You may recognize the building of the City Hall. It looked a bit different, and right across the street from the City Hall was a caravanserai, or let's say a hotel complex and the shopping center complex that belonged to Mr. Tamamshev. Well, he was just a big merchant and proprietor. And there, Mamulashvili rented a tiny, tiny room. But Mtsketa is 40-minute drive from Tbilisi. So Mamulashvili lived in Tcheta. So in order to be at the store and in order to take care of the store and to open the store, Mamulashvili, all the funds he had, this is the same caravanserai of Tamamshev, in order to open the store, he spent all his savings. And with what was left of the savings, Mamulashvili just rented a small room in Tbilisi because he just had to stay nearby and this area is where we have been actually multiple times. The caravanserai was destroyed in the 1930s, so there's really nothing there. But there next to it there is still a little garden. You can see this photograph of the inauguration of a monument, of a small monument to Alexander Pushkin, a Russian poet. So the garden was simply just, let's say the store of Mamulashvili was very close to the Pushkin garden. And I had no idea about it at all. And look at the arrangement in the store. Look at that. So the furniture looks like a trunk of a tree, and the florist is standing inside the trunk of a tree. Well, it's just an imitation. I don't know. Maybe it's not even an imitation. I don't really know. But I hardly doubt that Mamulashvili would want to cut down a tree. But he actually has trees and I guess it's just the twigs and the branches of the trees in his house. It looks like a garden inside. It looked like a garden. And I saw these photographs for the first time just 2 weeks ago. I still can't believe it. I have lived in Georgia for 3 years now. And only 2 weeks ago, I heard about this place. So I think Georgian just keeping it a secret. I am convinced of this conspiracy. And in the Soviet period, Mamulashvili, well, obviously Mamulashvili couldn't immigrate. He couldn't leave his garden because it was just impossible. So he remained in the country and he remained a legend. You can see photographs. You could also probably see, well, you see this is a diploma of his participation, and it's the certificate. I think he was given the first prize at one of the big all Soviet exhibitions. So he won agricultural exhibitions in 1960s. And also you can see the photographs of Mamulashvili with politicians, with ambassadors, with superstars, with sports stars. Well, this is Lev Yashin, a very popular uh, champion of the Soviet Union. Even to me, this name really rings a bell. Oh, this is Arkady Raikin, who was a stand-up comedian, the superstar of the Soviet Union. By the way, he was a Jew, and he obviously visited the garden. Everyone, the ambassadors of European countries. This is a guest from Finland. It doesn't say who it is, but just say guest from Finland. Everyone was taken to the garden. And Mamulashvili was more than happy to offer a tour of his place. Beautiful. Everyone visited. Well, this is a delegation from India, I believe. Vietnam. This is Vietnam. There was also a delegation from India. And also, we will see, yeah, he had a dog. Also, he had a family. He had a wife. He had a daughter. That's him and his daughter Pelageya. She was an artist, by the way, and she helped her father a lot in the garden as well. And that's also her, and that's him in his greenhouse. The greenhouse is still there, by the way. And during his free time, Mamulashvili created a lot of. Well, he had his hobby, just the herbaria, and he created a lot of herbaria designs, and they all belong to him. And also, he had, well, it was a hobby, well, just creating flower bouquets, designing bouquets as a florist. It first started as a hobby, but then since he opened the store, he did it. I mean, just look at this furniture. Look at this. I will show it to you in a minute. He started selling postcards of the bouquets and the combinations and compositions of flowers, and they went viral. Look at this furniture. So we are now inside the house, and inside the house we have a lot of memorial items that have been preserved by the family. This beautiful Art Nouveau wardrobe, and look at all these items over here. This also belonged in the family. That's the items that Mamulashvili kept from his childhood, from the times before the revolution, that was kept used by his parents. And he became an orphan when he was 16. Well, he lost first his father, then he lost his mother, and he was the eldest of the family, so he had to provide for his siblings. And this was the difficult times in the country in general. So life wasn't a bed of roses, as one would say, for Mikhail Mamulashvili, but he tried very hard and succeeded in creating and making this bed of roses for himself and everyone else. Also, he had this minerals collection. I know nothing about minerals, and I'm just briefly showing it to you. And also, we're looking at over a century old dried flower compositions created by him. It's all his work. And all these items were either his personal belongings or presents from the visitors to his store, presents from the visitors to his garden. And there is probably 5% of what can be exhibited. By the way, that's you see the old money, the old currency, rubles, and also you see a little piece of paper from the left that's an ad of Solidor, so this golden flower store. No, sorry, the Golden Sun flower store, Solidor Golden Sun. That's the store where later on, so his children also worked. So it was a family business. Eventually, it was a family business. And also, you can see that here are some gardening tools, like a little sickle. And also, you see a little, like, well, kind of a walking stick. Well, it looks like a staff, the thicker one. So, actually, we were told that staff belonged to Akaki Tsereteli, who was, again, another star of Georgian nationalism and Georgian liberation movement. Akaki Tsereteli was a poet, a big friend of Chakchavadze, and Akaki Tsereteli, like many other fellow writers, artists, politicians, was a good friend of Mamulashvili, and Akaki Tsereteli every day on his way to the publishing house where Tsereteli worked, would always drop by the flower store. This is the postcards that became really collectibles during the Soviet period. They were all these compositions, all these flower compositions, all those bouquets were created by Mamulashvili, photographed and then printed and sold. And you could find them probably everywhere across the Soviet Union. Also, a lot of books. And the library of Mamulashvili, you just have to see this. It's incredible. And a lot of letters, his correspondence. It's maybe just a fraction. I don't know, 0.002%. That's the house. The photo's taken, and I'm not even sure when the photo was taken, to be honest. But very old. It's probably even before the revolution. So I was told that he kept every letter that was sent to him and responded to and tried to respond to every letter he received. Also, he was a very caring. He was very caring towards his clients. A lot of clients became his friends, right? And one day he just he just had a man who would come every day and buy a bouquet for his wife. And then this man stopped coming. He skipped one day, skipped 2 days, and then Mamulashvili started suspecting something. And then he found out that the man had passed away. So Mamulashvili, on a daily basis, would be sending the small bouquets of the favorite flowers of the widow, to her. Beautiful story. Yeah. So that's what I was told by the granddaughter, who gave us a tour of the museum. Also, Mamulashvili contributed to the preservation of national heritage. So this is the story I discovered in a Soviet magazine released in 1969 or 64. So this story took place in 1923. Mamulashvili found out that a collector was just about to send, this is the photograph, the original of this medieval portrait of Shota Rustaveli, who is the biggest poet of Georgia, the author of this famous poem, the Night in the Panther Skin. And Mamulashvili spent his own funds to buy this miniature portrait, and he donated it to the State Museum of Art of Georgia. It's believed to have belonged to the daughter of the Georgian king, Erkel II. That's his study. This study is full of old photographs of Mtheta. These are the walls of the Svetitshoveli monastery, and the photographs of his friends, family, clients that became his friends, and celebrities. Just the infinite number. So visit some family members. Because he had siblings, also he had a big family. Because his siblings had children of their own. Many things, incredible, and it's just a fraction. They also showed us we saw just huge boxes filled up, and like there's a big shelf. I don't know, like 4 layers on the shelf, and all the layers, all the shelves were filled up with boxes that are full of just about to explode from the papers in it. That's the mother of Mamulashvili, by the way, a photograph. And there's also, I think, one more photographs of his family. Yeah, so this is also the mother and the father. It's also another family photograph. Unfortunately, we were not told names, everything. And I don't see this information in open access, but who knows, we might need to go back. This is just one of hundreds and hundreds of books. The guest book, 1969. And this entire, I don't even know, it's like a cupboard, but I think it's just used to store papers. I don't know. So this entire closet is full of this guest books where any visitor could leave him a note, greetings, or whatever. That's his Mercedes, his typewriting machine. A very expensive one. A lot of icons, of course. Well, the portrait, I think he's just wearing the same garment he was in the video that I showed you. That was his table that he worked on. And he woke up at 5:00, started working in the garden, and finished already at night. I don't understand where he had the energy to respond to letters, where he had the energy to work somewhere outside of the garden even. I just don't get that. I just don't, honestly. So, and all that, again, I had no idea about. The beautiful vases, I believe, pre-revolutionary, also that belonged to him as more of this rocks, minerals, of course, I'm sorry. And a lot of books. We saw his ancient books that from his collection, a lot of Soviet books. And it's just one of the boxes, one of, I don't know, squillion of boxes. And this is also a box of chocolate sweets. I don't know when these candies were made, maybe even before the revolution. I don't remember. I don't see that. But he kept that because it was a present. And all these boxes are full of things. Look, they're cataloged by the family. They are cataloged by the family. And as I said, there are 2 rooms, it's like a guest house that one can rent. And one room that I have a video of costs 100 lari per night. You can, if you are planning a trip to Georgia, just go to Booking.com and find Solidor Hotel in Tseta, and less than $50, you're going to have this room with the stove made with the pre-revolutionary bricks. These bricks are, oh my goodness, 150 years old, maybe. And just as a little bonus, I wanted to show you Mtskheta cows. And so that's why it looks a little bit like Switzerland, because also you get to see these cows just strolling around the town, minding their own business, honestly. And you see, it does look a bit like Switzerland to me. I don't know. Okay, we have a couple of minutes for the Q&A. You see, I tried very hard not to overrun because in a couple of minutes from now, we are having the Soviet literature tour. And Risha should be joining us as well, and I will be there. So I'm going to share with you the links once again. And hi, those who joined me a little after we started. The chat is open. Let me know if you have any questions. It's not guaranteed I will be able to answer it because there's not so much information online, and I may just have to ask the granddaughter herself. Great-granddaughter. I haven't seen the granddaughter, so her mom. And I'm sharing here all the links. So in 2 minutes from now, we're starting the tour of the Soviet children's literature. And then in 1 hour after the tour would finish, I'm taking you to Tel Aviv to the House Museum of Chaim Bialik. Yeah, I need to hurry up. I know, Jolie, I know, but that's okay. We're good. Thank you, Alan. What a rich life he led. Wish I could say I had spent a day with him. You know what? That once I saw that terrace, once I saw that room, I really wanted just to stay there because I knew it would feel amazing to have tea on that balcony, looking at the garden. It's so serene and quiet, probably saying hi to the cows passing by. And that street, no tourists really walk. It's a minute away from the church, one of the main landmarks in the country. If that street is quiet in that garden, you forget where you are. It's incredible, honestly. Thank you, Maria. Thank you. Thank you, Natalie. Thank you, everyone. I'm going to see you in a couple of minutes from now. You have all the links. So it's the usual way. I'm sharing here also the links. If you feel like supporting me, you can also do it obviously after the next tour or whatever. And I haven't scheduled much for the next weekend, but I will make up for it shortly. And next weekend, I'm also planning an interesting collaboration with a local artist. But I'm not going to be telling you all the secrets now. I'll wait a little bit. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Thank you for your interest in my tours. I wasn't even expecting more than 5 people, but we actually at some point had 19 on the tour. Thank you so much for that. I would love just as many people in the world as possible to know about this place. It's incredible. Pure gem. Thank you everyone for joining. I'll see you shortly. Bye bye.